Don't let this happen to you. Or do, it's your life. Let's talk about in a pickle. To be in a pickle means to be in a difficult situation or in a quandary. For example, Peter was in a pickle after he accidentally locked himself in his car for the 7th time. Or, SpongeBob was in a pickle when he forgot the pickles. In a pickle didn't always refer to being in a jam. In fact, it had several prior meanings and a complicated origin story, to say the least. The in trouble meaning is really just an allusion to being as mixed up and disoriented as the stewed vegetables that made up pickles. We have to travel all the way back to 1440 for the earliest known use of pickle. An anonymous Middle English poem called Morte Arthur related the gory imagined ingredients of King Arthur's diet. For the 1% of you that can read and understand this, have a crisp high five. For everyone else, myself included, this is the translation. At the time, pickle meant a spicy sauce or gravy with meat or fowl. Here, in a pickle was almost a literal allusion, as whimsical stories of the time related to unfortunate people who found themselves on the menu. Fast forward to 1562, and we see the first written use of pickle to mean difficult situation. The Oxford English Dictionary deemed this wacky old poem to hold such an honor. Are you as confused as I am? Even the OED admits that the exact sense of pickle here is unclear, but it seems as if pickle means something closer to preserve than difficult situation. It gets even more confusing from here, as the next two citations have different meanings still. In 1573, pickle seems to be used to mean in a fix, and in 1585, it seems to refer to something along the lines of the current meaning. Unsurprisingly, Shakespeare was also one of the first people to use in a pickle, and he did so in The Tempest in 1610, although, big surprise, it had yet another meaning. To translate from Shakespearean English, Alonso says, "And Trinculo is dead drunk. Where'd they find the booze? How did you get so sauced?" And Trinculo replies, "I've been so wasted since I last saw you that I'm afraid I'll never get the booze out of my bones. I don't have to worry about flies getting at me." Yes, naturally Shakespeare inspired the euphemism pickled to mean drunk. Everything so far has been nice and all, but I would be lying if I said the Dutch weren't somehow involved. Although this is unlikely to be the actual origin, there is a Dutch phrase, in de pickle zitten, which translates to sitting in the pickle brine. However, Dutch etymology experts say that the meaning is more along the lines of pickled in the Shakespearean sense of wasted. This has nothing to do with the origin, but a pickle is a nickname for a specific situation in baseball, commonly known as a rundown. For those who don't know much about America's pastime, a rundown starts when a runner attempts to reach a base, but the ball reaches the base ahead of time. This leaves the runner with two options: either continue towards the base and elusively avoid a tag, or sprint to the other base and hopefully run faster than a speeding baseball. Unfortunately, most people can't run faster than a banana, so they end up stuck between the bases. The area between the bases is also known as no man's land, and is the last place where a base runner wants to be trapped. It's often an easy out for the defense, so in the eyes of the base runner, it is a very difficult situation, and a rundown leaves them in quite the pickle. Remember that guy from the beginning of the video? Oh, not him. Get out of here. Shoo! Bad Shakespeare. Him. That's not just any pickle enthusiast. That's Britain's most famous naval hero, Admiral Horatio Nelson, who's also attributed to the traditional origin of the idiom turn a blind eye. But anyway, in the middle of the Napoleonic War, Nelson was fatally struck by a musket ball. His crew simply couldn't bury his body at sea. I mean, this was the guy whose victory during the Battle of Trafalgar was significant in preventing an invasion by Napoleon Bonaparte's army. In 2002, Nelson was considered the 9th greatest British person in history. The crew had to return the body to England. Knowing that there was no way to return to land quickly, the Irish surgeon on board, William Beatty, decided to preserve him in a cask of brandy. 2 weeks into the journey home, as Nelson's body was slowly rotting, A fortnight of gaseous pressures caused the lid of the cask to burst, scaring the living daylights out of a sailor sitting nearby. To him, it just looked as if Nelson had risen from the dead and was trying to climb out. Without getting too graphic, Nelson's pickled body was eventually buried 80 days after he died, and Beatty became famous as a result of the successful pickling. And that's the story of the most famous person ever to have been literally in a pickle, although he was in more of a liquor than a pickle.